There's something truly magical about the intelligence of Nintendo fanboys. Apparently buying games for the Switch and then playing them on your PC is now piracy. And somehow Kotaku managed to write a semi-competent article, which of course the Nintendo fanboys failed to read properly, leading them to think Kotaku was telling people to pirate Metroid Dread, something they weren't doing, because if you actually read what they were saying, you'd realize they were talking about older games in the franchise. Hence the sentence saying if you want to play the rest of the franchise. Now if you guys are somehow unaware, Nintendo has some of the worst game preservation in history, proven by their recent announcement for the Nintendo Online subscription. They are terrible at offering ways to play their older games without playing them on decade-old hardware, and you'll realize pretty quickly that the only way to get access to some of these games is piracy. Personally, I wouldn't pirate games I can easily buy, and I don't endorse it when it comes to games you can readily buy, without spending hundreds on purposely inflated copies of old games. And I also want to make it very clear, in no way, shape or form do you have to pirate games to use them on an emulator. You can buy Metroid Dread and then play it through an emulator. I know, such an unsurprising revelation to anyone with half a functioning brain cell. Emulation is not piracy. Piracy is piracy. Emulation is not illegal. In fact, it is protected by the law from companies like Sony and Nintendo, who used to try and shut down emulators in the past. And in Sony's case, they lost in court on all accounts. If anyone wants a great video which explains all of this in far more detail, I urge you all to watch Mutar's video on the topic because it is incredibly informative. Oh, and what's that on the screen right now? I have no idea how this article talking about the fact that a 300-page study that concluded piracy doesn't affect sales, which was suppressed by the EU, got on screen. Don't worry, Nintendo, I'm taking that off the screen right now. And to no one's surprise, it appears as if Nintendo has issued a false copyright takedown of someone's performance test for Metroid Dread, which is illegal if their video does fall under fair use, and the likelihood of their video not falling under fair use is near to zero, since it's a fucking performance testing video. So without further delay, let's get into the Nintendo fanboys crying over Nintendo Switch emulation. What's the point of this article? Fans have waited like 20 years for this game and it's not virtuous to go, hurrah, you can get it for free, fuck Nintendo, for this specific case in the slightest. Their article never endorsed pirating Metroid Dread, and I don't get how people still think that pirating a game makes Nintendo lose money. I love to break it to you, but most people pirating games have no intention of buying them, meaning that Nintendo has not lost the sale, because for them to lose a sale, there has to potentially be one in the first place. Also, it's amazing to me that over 1,900 people don't understand that emulation does not equal pirating. There is nothing wrong with informing your site's users that they can play a Switch game on their PC whilst running the game better. What the hell is wrong with you? We have been waiting 2 decades for a new 2D Metroid, and you are actively supporting pirating it. This isn't an out-of-print game from the 90s that you can't buy. This isn't a game that's broken on native hardware. There is no reason to pirate it. They didn't endorse pirating Metroid Dread. The closest thing they did to that is saying that you can pirate the older games. That, by the way, Nintendo has not given a half-decent way to play. And even still, I personally saw what Kotaku said as a joke. I know, how truly insane. A joke about PC gamers pirating games? Such an unheard of joke. I mean, there truly is no chance that this could have been a joke that people took way too seriously. But even if it wasn't, they aren't telling people to pirate Metroid Dread. I don't care if you've waited 2 decades for this game. Emulation is not piracy. Can't Nintendo actually sue them for this, or am I dumb? The second half of what you said is almost definitely the correct answer there. You should be ashamed of this article. I've been reading Kotaku for years, but this does it. Piracy is already bad enough without a major site encouraging it. Out of all the articles that Kotaku has made in their history online, this was the article that made you stop reading their shit. I mean, that level of blind loyalty is honestly impressive for all the wrong reasons. People that emulate those games that need to sell millions of copies to avoid failure should not be allowed to have internet. My god, Nintendo fanboys are ignorant. I genuinely don't understand how these people don't know that there's no need to pirate games in order to emulate them. You only need the game's ROM, which doesn't require piracy. How someone comes to that conclusion is just baffling as well. Are you kidding me, Kotaku? This game is brand new and you promote pirating, hacking and modding it? Sorry guys, this crap doesn't deserve to be called journalism. Emulation is one thing, to promote piracy is something entire else. My man really failed to read the words. If you want to play the rest of the franchise. Nowhere in that statement did they encourage the piracy of Metroid Dread. I know Nintendo fans are stereotypically small children, but how the fuck can these people fail to read such basic English whilst being able to play video games. Even on non-Kotaku articles, Nintendo fanboys are crying about quote-unquote piracy. Please don't promote piracy. I love to break it to you and the other 426 dumbasses who liked your tweet. Emulation is not piracy. I am a proponent of emulation, but this only promotes piracy and stealing. Maybe if you had an entire section devoted to how to transfer a Switch cartridge to a format that's readable on PC, it would be okay. Do better. If you even bothered to take 2 seconds to skim through the article, you know that they didn't even come close to endorsing piracy like Kotaku's article did. Promoting emulation is not promoting piracy. It's promoting a legal and legitimate way to preserve video games. I get that it's cool and all, but why? What's the point in promoting emulation of games that just came out? So that more consumers are aware of the fact that they could be playing a Switch game in better versions for potentially no extra cost whatsoever. I don't see how promoting the fact you can buy Metroid Dread and then play it on PC is an issue. In fact, it's the complete opposite of an issue. In the majority of situations, their article will only lead to more people buying the game so that they can play it on their PC. Delete this post. We've waited 19 years for this game and it deserves actual support. This is a horrible take. How is playing their game on PC after legally buying a copy not actual support? I spent the same amount of money on a Switch and spent the same amount of money as you did on the game. I was just smart enough to play it in a better state for no extra cost. Asking them to delete the post is just pathetic as well. That major gaming publication won't listen to you, buddy. You just directly supported piracy. People will try to spin this, but it's exactly what you did. Your argument forgets the Switch is more than a handheld. Cramped hands, really? Wanting to tinker with settings or not owning a Switch doesn't justify piracy. God, these people are hilariously moronic. Nowhere in that screenshot you provided did they promote piracy or even come close to it. The most they did was mock how tiny the Switch is. I myself did get cramps from using the Switch due to how uncomfortable it is to use for people who don't have baby hands. And as I've said 1,000 times in the video, emulation is not piracy, piracy is piracy. At Nintendo UK, at Nintendo America, PC Gamer promoting pirating Metroid Dread seems really dodgy. This fucking guy unironically tried to snitch to Nintendo over PC Gamer promoting emulation, not piracy. Like, the fuck would Nintendo even do? Embarrass themselves in front of billions of people in court? I know the Nintendo Ninja lawyers are good, but they ain't that good, chief. They can't magically make things illegal when they aren't illegal. If your article is eerily similar to what Kotaku is saying, maybe you shouldn't have posted it. But their article isn't similar to Kotaku's in the aspect you're referring to. What are you doing? Metroid Dread just came out 2 days ago. Why are you jumping on the piracy bandwagon? It is wild how accurate the term Nintendrone is. These dumb motherfuckers will simply follow the herd and regurgitate anything they hear from their fellow Nintendo fanboys. At Nintendo. Goddamn, we got another fanboy trying to snitch to Nintendo even though there's nothing to snitch about. And even when Nintendo will never see his tag because they're a multi-billion-dollar company who more than likely gets millions of ats a day on Twitter. What the fuck is happening? This game came out less than a week ago and multiple douchebag game journals are shilling emulators. I've never seen this before. Something is going on. It's almost like the Switch has become 2 generations out of date, causing people to turn to emulation to get the bare minimum experience Nintendo should be providing them with, but isn't. Oh, and it's almost as if there's nothing wrong with promoting emulation as it is not piracy. At Nintendo America, at Nintendo, get them. At this point, it's just sad. Not that it wasn't before. It's just gotten so utterly pathetic. These dumbasses really think Nintendo is actually going to notice them and try to sue multiple news publications for promoting emulation, something that is completely legal. Now, I cannot be asked to read any more painfully idiotic Nintendo-owned tweets, so with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do, aka check out my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe, so that I'll see you all in the next video.